And I'm going to say good morning to One Heart, One Mind Center for Spiritual Living. And so good to see everybody. And I have a song to kick us off. This is Gary Lynn Floyd, and this is Unbound, which is kind of what we're talking about today in a way. So, oh, darn. Forgot to share the sound. Sometimes I do that. All right, let's try it again. Share sound. It does have a little video, so I'm gonna share that as well. Here we go.
Open your mind, unfold your heart, relax your senses, feel every part. You ain't got a thing to fear, looks like love is growing here. So take your guard and let it down, go deeper still until you come unwound. Unbound. Breathe every breath, release your cringe. Love without waiting, without waiting, slowly unhinge. You ain't got a thing to fear, looks like love is growing here. So take your guard and let it down, go deeper still until you come unwound. Stop waiting for love to find you. Look inside your heart. Love's already who you are. Already who you are. So lift up your voice, lift it up now, now, let it be heard, let it be heard. And tell me your story, tell it to me, and don't leave out a word, not a word, no. 'Cause I think I have been there too, I'm a seeker just like you, and you ain't got a thing to fear, looks like love is growing here. So take your guard and let it down, go deeper still until you come unwound. Unbound. Lay it down, lay it down, lay it down, down, down.
This is how to get in shape fast.
If you want.
Sorry.
Start eating more of these. You might think this would take years to learn, but I'm going to teach it to you in 6.
All right, well, there we go. Oh dear. I know, I just, sorry. But you know how the YouTube videos have the stuff that comes on right after, I usually try and catch that. Anyway, I just thought that was a good place for us to start because we're talking about go deep today. So Unbound seems like a good jumping off place. So Lissa, my dear friend Lissa, is our partner of the day. So I am going to invite you.
Okay. Well, and I must say that in terms of where my head has been, that song was perfect for me because I was looking at the fact that last week Michelle talked about the uniqueness. We each have our own uniqueness. And that moved me into that sense of also really, again, looking at the gifts that we're seeded with in terms of love and compassion and clarity and harmony, peace, wisdom, love, generosity, and that lives with, and happiness. Those are the seeds that live within us, and we are sort of guided away from them in the world of form because of the fact of all the shoulds and oughts and all of the things that flash before us and tell us we're supposed to do or be or whatever. And it's like the going deep is like going back into those seeds and how you express them individually. And I think that it's like I was thinking about how there's so many people who are saying I can't find my purpose because they're thinking that their purpose has to do with their job and that their job has to be something that really demonstrates a big thing in the universe. Whereas really, I was just realizing that the day-to-day things that are of value to me at this stage of my life, I'm just being able because I'm not having to be working, and have a lot of freedom, that I'm able to really look at what's going on in the world around me, and the fact of all of the kindnesses and all of the gifts that I've just mentioned are demonstrated in people around me, um it's like I know that part of it is because of the fact that people do respond to the fact that I am frail when I'm walking around in the community, and that they respond to that. And that's that deep urge that lives within all of us to be of assistance to other people and to connect with other people. And so I think that it's like really looking within in terms of seeing that and seeing those things in the context of who you are. And there was a demonstration and many, I don't know, some of you may watch Stephen Colbert, and I watch him periodically. And this particular night, I saw once again this fellow, and I can't remember names. This is part of where I am in my life right now, that I remember the essence of what I want to remember, but I don't remember the details. At any rate, we'll go with it. This young man, who is one of Stephen Colbert's writers, had said to a friend after he saw this basketball guy do this fantastic, impossible double dip dump, that, oh, I can do that in 6 months. And so Stephen took him on and basically said, okay, we'll support you to do this. And he hired him two different trainers, expert trainers. Well, this kid has never played basketball. And it's like this whole thing was just, for me, is like it's the expression of humor. But anyway, and so at any rate, he had to tune in every month, right? And so this was his last month, and we've seen him before, and he couldn't make a basket at all, even for a while. And he kept pulling his back out. I mean, he kept injuring himself and laughing about it. It was like this, and it just kind of one of those, his energy, you just want to know him because his energy was so, oh well, this is the way it went. And then so anyway, we're at the last week. And this time I think he may have gotten the ball in, but he still can't even do a dump. And so then he talked about it. And he said, and he talked about the fact that that he'd met some wonderful people during this, and he'd had a good time. And that one time on the show, when he was on one of the months, Robert De Niro was on, and Robert De Niro had given him a thumbs up. And so, he was talking about that. And then he said, and what I learned from this was that it's important to have a goal. Doesn't matter whether you make the goal or not. It's just important to have the goal itself. And then he began talking about that whole concept. And it's like the Man of La Mancha. You've got to have a dream. And so then he began singing that song, "To Dream the Impossible Dream," and he is not a singer. I mean, he sang it, but it's like it's not a professional singer. But it was such a perfect expression of that sense of, he obviously, he's a funny writer, I'm sure, and it's like that's his humor is the thing that comes from him and empowers him to give. It's the urge within that he gives the gift of himself. And it's like you couldn't help but like the guy. Well, at least I for sure couldn't, because he totally reminded me of my nephew who passed away 2 years ago, because my nephew loved Man of La Mancha, and he, in a non-professional voice, used to constantly drop that the dream song to our family. So at any rate, that's kind of what I was thinking about in terms of today, is that sense of how important it is to just really know who we are, and kind of let the other expectations that people may have of us kind of fade away a little bit, so that we can really, really express that urge and come into that feeling zone that Rob always talks about, where you just feel really good. And so from that, I would like for us just to go into prayer. Okay, so let's take a nice deep breath and know that there is one God, one spirit and energy that runs the universe. It has created the beginnings and the ongoingness of everything that ever was, ever will be, will ever exist. And it's constantly a part and piece of who we are. We are it. We are that. We are filled with all of the goodness and all of those urges of goodness from that spirit that runs and is life. And so I know that today we just are furthering our own knowledge and experience and remembrance of who we truly are through the words of Reverend Michelle, and the attention to looking at how we can go deep today. And so I know that we are each a part of this service in a way that will give each one of us a positive experience in our own spiritual life and growth. And I'm so grateful for that. And I'm so grateful for each and every person who is on this call or who will listen to this call on a later date. And so I release my word into the law by saying, and so it is. And our affirmation: we have within us a power that is greater than anything we shall ever contact in the outer world, a power that can overcome every obstacle in our life and set us safe, satisfied, and at peace, healed and prosperous in a new light and in a new life. And that's our old buddy, Ernest Holmes.
Yes, our old buddy Ernest Holmes. We're going to hear a lot of him today, actually. But I have some more music for us, so let me get this going for us. This is Peter Mayer, and I just really like his approach to just spirituality in general. It's always based in what we can see and feel in nature around us. And this is called God is a River. And there is a little video, so let's, fingers crossed, no bumps here.
In the ever-shifting waters of the river of this life, I was swimming, seeking comfort. I was wrestling ways to find a boulder I could cling to, a stone to hold me fast, where I let the fretful waters of this river round me pass. And so I found an anchor, a blessed resting place, a trusty rock I called my Savior. There I would be safe from the river and its dangers, and I proclaim my rock divine, and I prayed to it protect me, and the rock replied, God is a river, not just a stone. God is a wild raging rapids and a slow meandering flow. God is a deep and narrow passage, a peaceful sandy shore. God is a river swimmer, so let go.
Oops. Hang on a second, we had a little bump for some reason. Let's try.
Still I clung to my rock tightly with conviction in my arms, never looking at the stream to keep my mind from thoughts of harm. But the river kept on coming, kept on tugging at my legs, till at last my fingers faltered and I was swept away. So I'm going with the flow now, these relentless twists and bends, acclimating to the motion and a sense of being led. And this river is like my body now, it carries me along through the ever-changing scenes and by the rocks that sing this song. God is a river, not just a stone. God is a wild raging rapids and slow meandering flow. God is a deep and narrow passage and a peaceful sandy shore. God is a river swimmer, so let go. God is the river swimmer.
Oh, cut off for me. Sorry about that. You guys could hear the sound, couldn't you?
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think it's a beautiful song. For some reason it stopped, but that's okay. Oh my goodness, so that was fun. If I can get this, I want to make sure I'm not gonna come back on. Here we go. I can hear me echoing somewhere, so everybody please make sure you're muted. So, all right, so good morning. Here we go. Good morning, One Heart, One Mind Center for Spiritual Living. And, you know, as always, I always want to join everyone or welcome everyone who's joining us in real time or in replay. And, you know, I look at our center as our community is this like really circle of love, circle of community. I'm gonna, someone's, hang on just a second while I fix this. Let's see if I can't mute whoever is not muted here.
I'm not.
Oh, maybe it's you, sweetheart. I think it's Betty. Okay.
Oh.
I got Betty. I don't hear the reverberation from you, so I've got her muted now.
I can't even see me on here now.
Oh,
wait, I got it.
We'll wave to you. So you are part of our loving community circle that widens to embrace everyone too, Yvonne, even if you can't see yourself.
Yeah.
But to welcome everybody. And I do see us that way as like this big wide circle of love, and we can just get wider and wider and wider to embrace anybody that wants to join us because we're just open and loving. So today's talk title is Go Deep, which when I first heard it sounded like something a quarterback yells to his wide receiver when he passes the football, which is really implying distance. And of course, go deep from a metaphysical perspective isn't about distance at all. It's about going deep into our inner world to connect with the nature of our being. Ernest Holmes, founder of Science of Mind, as we all know. I should mention, I kind of alluded to this earlier, that I really leaned heavily on the wisdom of Ernest Holmes as I was putting together today's talk. I stood on his authority in a way because he wrote so eloquently about the necessity for going deep and really to embody who we are in God and the spiritual practices that we use to go deep and feel that presence. So I found myself just really going through all my Holmes books this week to just really stand. Sometimes you just got to go back to your foundation. Sometimes you just got to go back to where you started. And so I read this passage on page 40, and I'm paraphrasing here because I think it makes it a little clearer. But he wrote that we're surrounded by a mind or intelligence that knows everything, that everything exists here in mind, in potential. The potential, he actually called it the abstract, because I think he was speaking to, an abstract idea that was not yet in form, but he called it the abstract of beauty and truth and wisdom. And he said that we coexist within this same mind that holds everything in abstract or in potential. I started thinking about that. Wow, we live in this potential of God. That's who we are. We're swimming in it all the time. I love that language. And Holmes said that we can draw from it through the channel of our own mind. But he said, this caveat, that a unity must be established first, a unity with this consciousness. A conscious connection must be made before we can derive the benefits from this greater mind. Before we can, he used the language, before we can reveal or impart the potential within this essence. Basically what he was saying is that we go deep and we connect, and that whatever is within this vast ocean of consciousness, we're already it, that we can use it, that we can draw it forward. So that's what we're talking about today, going deep and drawing on this invisible field of potential, raising it up to the surface of our lives like the river, and letting it flow. We flow with it, living in that flow. And noticing what gets in the way of the flow and how we can address and release it so that the flow isn't restricted in any way. And we have lots of spiritual tools so that, the flow isn't restricted, so that we can just let it flow through us. We have forgiveness, gratitude, meditation, affirmative prayer, so many different things that we can do. And I always find it really interesting that when we speak about connecting to the mind of God, spirit, divine presence, when we go deep, we usually speak of it about it in terms of distance. Have you noticed that? Depth. height. We might say the presence is limitless, or we speak about it in terms of time. We speak about the infinite or the timeless. And in essence, what we're trying to do is we try to explain a state of consciousness that is beyond time and space from the perception of time and space, which is extremely difficult to do. I mean, it's really almost impossible. When in reality, there's no movement to go deep. To get there at all, there's no distance to travel. It's just kind of a gentle noticing of the quiet aliveness that's always there. The field of infinite potential, the higher self, the mind of God. And our language tries to capture this shift in consciousness, but really can't articulate it in any real way. But it's always with us, and it's always available. The kingdom of heaven is always within us. And our part is to shift our perception from the outer world, quiet down all that noise, and move into that inner world, that inner sanctuary that's always there. And, this isn't a new idea. It's ancient wisdom, taught by master teachers throughout the ages. And now we have some science to back up this idea. Quantum physics helps us to understand this state. We now understand that we're a part of a vast, invisible field of energy, which contains all possible realities. And this field is one, it's unified, and it responds. Remember the observer effect? It responds to what we observe within the field, what we put our attention on. That's basic science of mind. And I just love it when science and spirituality come together and they validate each other. This larger reality, this is our natural state of being. It's who we are beyond the confines of time and space. And of course, we're having a human experience within time and space. And so we have to learn to balance the two, right? We have to learn to navigate with our divinity through our humanity, just like the river navigates through the wilds and through the rocks. But we are empowered to pull from this field, as Holmes told us, because we're always connected to it. Everything we need to live these full and beautiful and joyous lives, that serves not only ourselves, but the whole of humanity, is available within this field, within the nature of God, within our own nature, because we are living within the nature of God. So as I kind of warned, I have a lot of Holmes quotes today because, man, I tell you, the guy was just brilliant. So he wrote this. I love this quote. The wick of your individual life runs deep into the oil of pure being. Oh, the wick of your individual life runs deep into the oil of pure being. No matter what confusion appears on the surface of your life, there is always a place of calm at the center of your being. No matter how turbulent the waves may be on the ocean of your experience, beneath there is a changeless peace. Oh. And this has been my experience. When I begin to feel kind of tossed by the turbulence or the waves of life, I know I can dive deep into the oil of pure being. Oh, I love that line, the oil, pure being, and I can find peace there. And this is really, in a sense, the essence of the science of mind teaching. We use our spiritual practice to go deep, to enter that state of oneness. And the more and more familiar we become with our oneness, the more easily we draw up the oil, the more we wick it up to the surface and let it light our lives. Another Holmes quote. Told you I was really into it this week. Holmes wrote, "Divine guidance is ours for the asking. The answer to any problem that confronts us already exists at the center of our being. Already exists at the center of our being. We can go deep and connect with divine wisdom. And the more and more we embody this divine wisdom, the more we know it, and the more we're going to demonstrate it in our lives, because we demonstrate who we are when we go deep within ourselves. And also when we go deep within our connection to others, because, we do that as well. I see God in you. And we can also go deep within the wisdom of nature. The more we know it and the more we demonstrate it. I ran across this cute story that I thought really illustrated this. So the story goes that there's this young minister who is presiding over the dedication of a new church. And he got up and he recited the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He restoreth my soul. His recital was flawless, every word perfect. And when he finished his recital, the audience was visibly impressed and even applauded. And then a member of the congregation stood up and asked if the church's elder minister would also recite the 23rd Psalm. And the old minister, he was somewhat surprised by the request, but he rose to his feet and he recited the Psalm. But his delivery was not nearly as eloquent as the younger minister's. He kind of stumbled over the words a couple of times and his voice cracked. It was clear he was not quite the orator that the younger minister was. But when he finished, the room was silent, no applause. But there was not a dry eye in the house. Everyone was just deeply moved. And there was this congregant sitting in the back of the sanctuary, and he leaned over to his friend and he said, I don't understand. The younger minister's delivery was perfect, and he was even applauded. But the older minister kind of messed up the psalm, and yet people were so moved. And his friend, who's kind of wiping a tear out of the side of his eye, said, it's all about the depth. The younger minister knows the psalm, but the older minister, he knows the shepherd. It's the embodiment of truth, that going deep that allows us to demonstrate the divine light that is within us, that we let that light shine fully when we embody our divinity, when we know who we are. Paramahansa, I told you I've been reading autobiography of a yogi, and Paramahansa Yogananda said that wisdom is not assimilated with the eyes, but with the atoms. I love that. It's embodied. It's when we know it with every fiber of our heart and our soul and our body, then we radiate it out into the world. I love that idea. That's going deep. That's why we go deep. And Holmes often said that we comprehend God only to the degree that we embody the divine nature of life, of the universe, of ourselves. And the way we embody our oneness with God is through a dedicated and committed spiritual practice. As we all know, there are so many different methods too, and we can choose which one fits with us. And if you're anything like me, mine change all the time. However, I find that I always come back to the basics. For me, that's spiritual mind treatment or affirmative prayer. I always come back to that because it kind of encompasses everything. But we pick what works for us, but we have to have that dedicated time and space where we come back into the deep, where we know it more fully, where we embody it and we hold it in our being. Another Holmes quote. Holmes wrote, to daily meditate and pray on the perfect life and to embody the great ideal is a path of freedom to that peace which passeth all understanding. I always trip over that. Peace which passeth understanding, to happiness in the soul of mankind. Let us learn to see God as God sees, with perfect vision. Let us seek the good and the truth and believe in them with our whole heart. Again, to go deep. And it's been my personal experience that when I connect with this, I call it the intimacy of God, with my intimate nature with God, when I allow love and truth and beauty and wholeness to touch or be embodied in my heart every day, it leads to a level of unity that begins to move freely through my life. It becomes who I am, let's put it that way. And then who we are expresses in our lives, what the oil easily moves up the wick and it flows through everything. And I believe in the value of daily practice. And I do have a dedicated time set aside for my practice every day. And I do notice a huge difference when I go deep and I connect every day. And I notice a difference when I don't. And as I said, another way to practice going deep is to connect with each other. The master teacher Jesus told us, when two or more are gathered, there I am among them. And this isn't about going to church or even gathering online like we do. It's about connecting with each other with our inherent oneness at a level beyond time and space. We're one, living in the same mind of God. It's all about the power of collective consciousness when we all go deep together, when we sit in the vibration of divine truth together. Our community does this every Monday evening in our prayer group. And on Tuesday evenings, we come together just to discuss how we bring God alive in our daily lives through our spiritual practice. And we do a little practice there too, but Monday's really the day. And on Sunday, when we sing or listen to music and pray, when we come into this place of curiosity and oneness together, we support each other. We raise each other up. We hold each other in the light. Our connection is valuable. It benefits everyone. And then it contributes to raising the vibration of love across the globe, in the heart of all of humanity. And again, science, back to science. Science confirms our oneness. Quantum entanglement, which took me a while to really kind of wrap my brain around, but quantum entanglement says that we are intricately and forever connected. Quantum entanglement says that subatomic particles, once they've been physically connected and then separated, they remain connected. And these particles can be eons apart, but when there's a shift or a movement in one, the other shifts in the same manner. Or a rotation in one particle, it corresponds to the rotation in another particle, no matter how great the distance. And I can't help but think, now I may be wrong in my thinking, I'm not a scientist, but I can't help but thinking that if all particles were originally created in one big bang, as the current science suggests, then we're all still connected to each other infinitely. And we're not only physically connected, all made from the same star stuff, but we're unified in the source that made us in the first place, that made all the star stuff in the first place. Every single major spiritual tradition has some version of the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Every tradition has some version of the Good Samaritan story. That's what I love about Point, the interfaith group that we all belong to. These are people that I normally would not hang out with or spend much time with. But when we come together, we can celebrate our commonalities, and they're pretty much the same throughout all of spiritual traditions, oneness, love, service, compassion. And then we get to honor all the differences that we have. We see each other as fellow human beings who are just walking through time and space reality together, doing the best we can, for our families and our friends and the strangers we meet, just really recognizing our oneness and supporting each other in the process. When we pay attention to each other and when we show up for each other without any preconceived ideas or judgments, when we don't shrink away from our differences, we don't want to talk about that, then we live that, the true meaning of that namaste, the God in me recognizes and honors the God in you. We go deep into the presence and the power of God within each of us, within everything, whatever name we happen to call it. We experience a presence and a power that encompasses us all. And it truly, it lifts us and it fills us. And we experience our interconnectedness in this, the interconnectedness of life. And Holmes said, again, Holmes, we're all one in the spirit. All of us created out of the same mind, sustained by the same power, and destined to live in the same eternity. We should, therefore, learn to live together in peace and goodwill, helping one another along the pathway of life. And, don't you feel good when you do that? When you hold the door open for somebody, you don't wonder what religion they are or what politics they are or anything else. We're just present with them as another human being. And nature demonstrates this principle of oneness in exactly the same way. I personally, and I know a lot of you as well, feel deeply connected with life when you're in nature, or just even witnessing nature, whether it's in my backyard or on the beach or even a city park. For me, it's a spiritual practice, to be present with the natural world in any setting. Darwin's theory of the survival of the fittest has really been kind of rewritten to be the survival of those who fit best, those who cooperate with each other. And many biologists today believe the role of mutual support, the role that it plays in nature and in evolution, that it's been dramatically downplayed, that it's really vitally important. And we can see this idea of mutual support in our world right now. You've probably heard the story. Actually, I think Relaine told us this story one time when she was practitioner of the day about the wolf restoration project that went on. I don't know if it's still going on, but in Yellowstone, and how bringing back the presence of the red wolf restored all of the ecosystems in Yellowstone. It returned balance to the wildlife, and it actually changed the complexion of the landscape. Survival of those that fit best. Nature is an amazing teacher, and that story in and of itself is a dramatic demonstration of the order and the balance and the harmony of nature moving through all of creation. It blows me away. The Christian Bible describes, if you read the first Genesis and then again in John, when he talks about the word, in the beginning there was the word. The Christian Bible describes the first acts of divine revelation of God through its creation as creation itself. But this is the act of creation, of God expressing into form. So in a way, nature is really the first Bible, written about 14 million years ago, before the Christian Bible or any other sacred books were read or were written. It's that's really the start of it all. There truly is one life and one power and one love, and we're all a part of it. And each of us is the center of life. We think of ourselves just as the part, but we're actually the center of it all. The center is everywhere. Within you, within me. We're not outside of life trying to get spirit to shower us with blessings. We're here in the midst of it all. And all that is true of God's spirit, the all that is true of us. Because there's no duality in God. There's no separation between us and God. There's only one life. We say that all the time. The life of God. And that life is our life now. So going deep not only embodies our oneness with God, but it reveals our oneness with God, that we're already one with everything, with the divine, with each other, with all of creation. Oneness really isn't something that we obtain or attain, I should say, but something that we experience. It's a part of our own reality that we learn to experience, that we practice experiencing. Holmes taught that we are each this expression of the one universal mind. And within us are depths, since we're talking about going deep, there are depths that we haven't even yet imagined, that we can't imagine, because we've never experienced it or even been in the space to experience that. But to go deep is to step into that vastness. There again, we're using words of time and space to try and describe something beyond time and space, but it feels vast, feels spacious. You know, and we live in a world right now that kind of rewards speed and performance and that surface level kind of certainty. But the spiritual path really invites us to go deeper, to listen beneath the noise, to notice what drives our choices, and to reconnect. I wanted to say connect, but it really is a reconnect with the deeper truth of who we are. You know, so Ernest Holmes, our wonderful, wise founder, he gets the last word today. So he gets the last word, and he said, "We are one with the universal wholeness." And that is, oh no, I'm sorry. We are one with the universal wholeness. All that is a part of this one whole. And all that is some manifestation of it. The air we breathe, the sunshine, the flowers, the trees, ourselves, everything is some manifestation of this one presence. We are it. We are it. So let's take a breath. And let's go deep just for a minute. I didn't really talk about techniques, but I think we know that when we go deep, we dive within that within us that connects us to our source, that connects us to each other, that connects us to all of creation. And we know its presence. We know its love and its beauty, its kindness, its strength and its gentleness, its order, its balance, its wisdom. We know its allness right where we are. And we know that this allness that we know and experience will express out through law into our world, into our personal lives, into our personal experiences, and then lift the totality of creation itself. I'm just grateful for this. Grateful for the truth in this, that I know beyond any doubt, beyond any questioning, I just know. And we all sit in that together in gratitude. Oh, we just release it and say together. And so it is.
It is.
So it is. It was kind of a back to basics morning. But I kind of liked that. So I'm not, Rob, are you doing the, I don't know.
Might
No,
as well.
okay. We'll
Might
go
as
with that.
well. Why not?
All right, I don't have the little screenshots up, but I can get them up.
That's okay. And just want to say when you look at your Zoom screen and it's not just words when I say that you are a very, very important part of One Heart, One Mind. You can tell just by looking at the screen. You are a very, very important part, and it would not be the same without you. Both showing up and being you, and also your financial contributions are also a very, very, very important part of this. So thank you for all that you provide to us, and you help us persist and be who we are. And probably, you got anything for me, Michelle?
I got it. I got it.
Okay. As always, send money by mail, send money by Venmo. We take it in any form. And that's the address right there. And to tie things together.
Words here. Here we go.
Okey doke. I give with a grateful heart, knowing that spirit is the source and substance of all supply. I joyfully participate in the circulation of abundance. My offering blesses the world and returns to me multiplied. I am grateful and I am prosperous, and so it is.
Ah. So we have, next week, we're going to be down at Ulm, and then Jim Massapist is doing his gratitude workshop, which will be right after, and he said that it'll be about an hour, so it'll be a long afternoon at Ulm, but it should be fun. And then as always, we have Monday evening. I love Monday evening. It's, sometimes it's so funny. We're so funny as human beings. Sometimes I'll be busy in my day and I'm like, oh, darn, I got to stop and pray. And then I stop and pray and I'm so glad that I did, it chills me out. It grounds me down. It connects me with all of you. So we have that on Monday. And then Tuesday, we're starting our new book on Neville. It wasn't written by Neville, but it's a compilation of all his teachings. And so hopefully that will be fun to do. And let's see, I think that's about, let's see, this isn't the first week. Relaine will be doing her prayer group on the first, let's see, the third, fourth, fifth. I think it's the 6th. It might be the 5th or the 6th. Anyway, it's in the newsletter. But she'll be doing her prayer group there. And let's just hold the space for Relaine and Jim and their Peacock Maria. We'll know the best for all of them. And I think that's about all I have. Rob, would you like to do the benediction? And then I have a closing song.
All right. So if you'd care to just relax into the benediction, which is always a gratitude for what has happened. I'm grateful for Lissa and her wisdom and her quirkiness, grateful for the time and energy and utter competence that Michelle puts into developing her talk, and the fun that she has delivering it, because that's always delightful to watch. And I am so grateful just for the fact that we get to pray, as this is a prayer right now, because just going into the prayer already, we are deeper than we were 60 seconds ago. We are deeper right now. And how do we know it? Because the way it feels, and it just feels warm and good in here. And so I am so grateful that God is a great place to live, because we don't have a choice. So thank you, God. Thank you, universe. Thank you for all that I declared that is true right now. I release my word, and together we say, and so it is.
Beautiful. Thank you, Rob. We're going to listen to Eddie Watkins Jr. Oh, you know what? I don't even have to share hang on a second. I can do the advanced. It's not a video, so I can just do the sound on the computer. But we'll let Eddie sing about what we just talked about and what you just talked about too. All right, here we go, Eddie.
There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. One life. There is only one holy substance flowing in and throughout creation. And right here in this very moment, we are an expression. We are a beloved expression, born of perfection. Let's raise our hands and celebrate, because we know there's only one life. That life is God's life. God's life. flowing throughout creation. And right here in this very moment, you are an expression. You are a beloved expression, born of perfection. So raise your hands and celebrate, because you know there's only one life.
That life is God's
That life is God's life.
That life is perfect.
And that life is perfect.
That life is my life.
That life is my life now. There's only one life.
That life is God's
That life is God's life.
That life is perfect.
And that life is perfect.
That life is my life.
That life is my life now. There's only one life.
That life is God's
Life is God's life.
That life is perfect.
That life is perfect.
That life is my life.
That life is your life now. There's only one life.
That life is God's
Life is God's life.
That life is
And
perfect.
that life is perfect.
That life is my life.
That life is our life now.
Life.
What? 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 Life. What? 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 What?
There's only one. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life. There's only one. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life.
My life is God's life. One life, God's life. My life is God's life. One life, God's life.
There's only one.
There's only one
That
life.
life is God's
That life is God's life.
That life is
And
perfect.
that life is perfect.
That life is my
That
life.
life is my life now.
One.
There's only one life.
That life is God's
That life is God's life.
That life is
And that life is perfect.
That life is my life.
All right, sing it, Eddie. Got a little reggae there. I love it. All right, I am going to turn off our recording now, so we'll say goodbye to everybody on the replay.